Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Ask SplitSuit a Question. I am James SplitSuit Sweeney here for thepokerbank.com, and today we're here to answer one of your questions. So today's question comes from Ron K, and Ron actually asked a multi-part question, and this is going to be part one. And Ron wants me to talk about flatting hands versus a table of unknowns. So let's talk about that. Alright, so let's just assume a table of total unknowns. We sat down, it's our first hand, we've never played with any of these people, don't recognize a single person, have zero information whatsoever. And what are we going to flat them with? So flatting is just something when we call a 2-bet, whether they open raised, whether they isolated, whatever, we're just calling a 2-bet. And what do we want to do that with? Well, first and foremost, whenever I call a 2-bet, I'm always doing so with a plan, some semblance of an idea of what I'm going to do when my hand hits and when my hand misses. Is this a situation where I think my opponent's going to do a lot of check folding on flops, or he's going to c-bet too much and play turns very face up, whatever it is. But that's with information. When you're at a table of total unknowns, you don't have that information. So there is no such plan. So you're kind of reduced down to defaults. And whenever you're reduced down to default actions, usually it means you're reduced down to default ranges. So when I'm in a situation like this, I'm usually going to be flatting very, very selectively, not very often at all. I'm usually going to be taking set mines when the math is correct, so when the stack sizes are deep enough versus the open raise, that sort of thing. And when I'm at a normal table, if I'm going to consider set mining from, say, middle position, I'm always looking behind me, are there squeezers, etc. But again, at an unknown table, we don't have that information. So I'm definitely going to be looking for set mine situations. I'm definitely going to be set mining a little bit more as a default, especially from like later position because there's less players that could possibly squeeze. But usually I'm going to be doing that. I'm usually not going to call suited connectors a tremendous amount from earlier middle position, but from later position for sure. Again, less players to contend with, and I have a situation where I'm going to have position more often if I do so from late position, which is obviously good for us, makes post flop a tremendous amount easier. And other than that, I'm not going to be doing much flatting. I'm not going to be calling many raises with like ace-x suiteds or that sort of thing, simply because I don't know if it's going to be good. I don't know if the implied odds are right. I don't know how I'm going to make money the large chunk of the time that that kind of hand misses. Now, I did a full video called The Science of Ace-X if you're interested how that kind of hand type hits, but it's not very well, and it's in a very, very specific kind of way. So it's not the kind of hand type that I want to do a lot of calling with, and I'm usually going to veer away from doing a lot of calling, especially out of position with kind of junky Broadway hands like the Queen 10s or the King 10 suited. I'm going to be very, very selective with those, and especially when I'm out of position. In position, probably not even at a total unknown table. Those are the kind of hands that I usually want some information, at least some semblance of an idea on how far I can take top pair post flop. If I don't have that idea, how the heck am I going to play the third of the time that it hits? It's going to be very, very difficult to do so. So, I may call some strong double Broadways that I may not necessarily default 3-bet, like maybe an ace-queen against the middle position raise, that sort of thing. But I'm going to be pretty selective, again, not giving action a tremendous amount of ways, and I'm not giving action with every suited gapper, every suited ace, any of that sort of stuff, and definitely not any double Broadway combo. And even more so when you're out of position, be very, very selective with these hands. If you're calling here more than 10% of the time, I can almost guarantee you that you're leaking. And even if you're calling at say 10 or 9.5%, that could still be a little bit too loose, especially if you're not particularly strong post flop. If you're still building those skills, that's okay, but don't put yourself in spots where you have no information and you're trying to figure out how to make the best line with a range that probably isn't super correct. So Ron, thanks for the awesome question, and if you or anyone else has any other poker-related questions, feel free to leave them on our Google Plus page. I'll leave a link for that in the description box. And please make sure to like and subscribe, especially if you're liking this video's format. Again, it's kind of new, so I'd really appreciate any feedback on it. And same as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, good luck out there, and happy grinding.